Yahoo Fantasy Football, the Tucson Tackle Dummies League. This is your Week 11 recap. Numerous teams took a stand this week as managers had to deal with the final round of byes in the NFL season, and interdivisional play wrapped up this week as we head into divisional matchups to close out the final 3 weeks of the season. Let's get right to it. Your closest matchup of the week, Raging Boners defeats Inglorious Bearjew 115.21 to 112.92. Against some serious odds and with an undermanned lineup, Raging Boners knocked off Inglorious Bearjew by less than 3 points this week. Boners played with a wide receiver, running back, and kicker on a bye this week, and 5 more players that scored 3 points or less, meaning half the squad made little or no contribution to the winning effort. Boners instead relied on 4 double-digit performances to carry the load, getting a game-high 30 points from quarterback Cam Newton, 19.9 from running back Chris Obunyaya, 19 from the San Francisco defense, and 10.06 from wide receiver Devon Bass. Bearjew had his own scoring woes, with 5 players scoring 3 points or less, only 3 players in double digits, and only 3 players beating projections this week. Wide receiver Jordy Nelson scored a team-high 25.8, but fellow wide receivers Harry Douglas, Mario Manningham, and Denarius Moore combined for just 9.43 points, while wide receiver Torrey Smith rode the Bearjew bench for 24 points this week. Also on the bench for Bearjew was tight end Jimmy Graham and running backs Rashard Mendenhall and Ben Tate, all 3 of which were on byes this week, meaning the league's best team in running back average points per start was without its 2 best running backs, and the league's number 2 team at tight end points per start had to go without its star tight end. Boners picked up a key victory without injured wide receiver Santana Moss and injured running back Ahmad Bradshaw, both on the Boners bench this week, but with a chance to re-enter the lineup next week as Boners emerges as a legit contender for the Cabs division, moving to 7-4 overall in the season in a tie with What the Shell atop the Cabs division. Bearjew falls to 7-4 with the loss, and once again blows a chance to take a shot at Wildcat division leading Lombardi's Ghost. Navajos knocked off Mustache Discount in a bit of an upset this week, 137.58 to 132.38. Navajos pulls out an impressive win, overcoming 2 individual defensive players on a bye and surviving some wrong choices between starters and bench this week. Navajos exceeded projections by over 40 points this week and pulled off a 5.2-point victory over a Mustache team that, by all accounts, just plain got beat this week. Mustache had 7 players beat projections, led by a team-high 24.63 from quarterback Tony Romo. Wide receiver duo Des Bryant and Steve Smith combined for 28.4 points this week, and running back Reggie Bush added 13.6. Perhaps the tipping point for Mustache was running back Chris Johnson, who fell way below projections with just 3.55 points this week, while running back Jonathan Stewart sat on the Mustache bench with 12.4 this week, a nearly 9-point difference that could have turned the tide in Mustache's favor. Navajos used an offensive onslaught this week to claim the win, getting 6 of 9 on offense beating projections and 5 players in double digits. Quarterback Jay Cutler scored a game-high 26.44 in his final game of the season for Navajos, as he's done for the year with a thumb injury. Wide receiver Jabbar Gaffney scored 19.25 for Navajos, and tight end combo Scott Chandler and Tony Gonzalez posted 24 combined points this week. The offensive onslaught could have been much worse, though, as running back Kevin Smith scored 39.1 for Navajos this week on the Navajos bench, and fellow running back Joe McKnight doubled his own projections with 13.38, while starting running back for Navajos Stephen Ridley scored a big fat 0 this week. Navajos has now rebounded from her 6-game losing streak with a 3-game winning streak to finish 3-1 against the Toro division and pull within a game of the final playoff spot at 5-6 overall, while Mustache is now 6-5 and 2 games back in the Toro division with 3 games to play. What the Shell defeats Championship Cheese 161.18 to 154.78. In a key matchup. Cheese posts the 3rd highest score of the week, but in what seems to be a weekly occurrence, a high score is trumped by the highest score, as this week's highest scorer Shell holds off Cheese for the key victory. Shell had an impressive 9 players in double digits this week, and 9 players beat projections with a combined 53.45 from 3 running backs and a combined 29.4 from 2 tight ends. And all of this was done with Drew Brees on the bench and on a bye, and wide receiver A.J. Green on the bench with an injury. Cheese himself had an impressive week with 11 players topping projections with a game-high 27.95 from running back Ray Rice, 21.58 from quarterback Josh Freeman, and a combined 27 points at linebacker from James Laurinaitis and Patrick Willis. All of the scoring just wasn't enough for Cheese, who beat his own projections by 25 points this week, only to see Shell do the same by nearly 23 points en route to his now 7-4 record and tiebreaker lead in the Cavs division. Cheese slips to 6-5 on the year and is in the final wildcard spot, the number 8 seed right now, having lost 2 straight games. In other action, Mojo Jojo knocked off Viva Football 119.78 to 94.29. Mojo jumps back into the driver's seat in the Aztec division thanks to a win over Viva. Viva felt the pain of running back Arian Foster on a bye this week and left him in the lineup to compound the blow in her lowest scoring game of the season and first score under 100 points. Mojo had just 5 players beat projections, not including the game-high 26.91 from Aaron Rodgers, who was projected for .02 higher than what he scored this week. Mojo got 20.3 from wide receiver and Eagle killer Victor Cruz, and a surprising 17 from the Seattle defense. Viva had a team-high 20.38 to bounce back using quarterback Alex Smith, but 10 players in the Viva lineup scored 4.5 points or fewer this week, including running back Sean Green, who fell way below projections this week in returning just 1.65 points, and the Buffalo defense returned no points at all for Viva this week. Mojo now leads the Aztec division by 3 games with 3 games left to play at 8-3 overall, while Viva falls to 3-8 on the year after losing 3 of 4 to the Aztec division. Angry Arthritis knocked off Big Ben's Revenge in the battle of bottom-feeding teams, 111.71 to 75.55. Arthritis keeps his slim, albeit very slim, playoff hopes alive with a gimme win over the dead carcass Big Ben's Revenge this week. Big Ben had his quarterback, a wide receiver, and his tight end on a bye this week and in the starting lineup, plus both defensive backs are injured and remained in the lineup as well. Big Ben did get a surprising 13.75 from wide receiver Michael Crabtree this week. Arthritis had just 2 players beat projections this week, with the wide receiver tandem of Roddy White and Mike Williams combining for 32.5 points. Both teams cannot win their respective divisions after this matchup, but remain mathematically alive in the wildcard chase. Arthritis did accomplish 1 goal, however, moving from 16th to 13th in the overall standings with the victory, with Big Ben now claiming the label of the league's worst team. In upset action, Wildcats knocks off Lombardi's Ghost 131.59 to 89.39. League-leading Lombardi had his worst game of the season and allows Wildcats to make a run at the wild card with a lopsided victory. Wildcats left 2 individual defensive players in the starting lineup on bye and still won the defensive battle 51 to 38 thanks to a combined 29.5 at linebacker from Chad Greenway and London Fletcher. Wildcats won the offensive battle as well, with 4 players beating projections on that side of the ball, led by 17.91 from quarterback Carson Palmer and 17.18 from wide receiver Percy Harvin. Lombardi had to go without running back Darren Sproles, who was on the bench on a bye, and fill-in running backs Leon Washington and Larod Stevens-Howling combined for just 4.4 points this week. Quarterback Tom Brady scored a pedestrian 17.11 this week, making things worse for Lombardi's handcuff wide receiver Wes Welker, who scored just 2.7 this week. Wide receiver Devin Hester was restrained for just 2.14 this week, and tight end Jermichael Finley was banged up, and again a non-factor in a prolific Green Bay offense, tallying just 3.25 points this week. Lombardi maintains a 1-game lead in the Wildcat division despite the loss, but fails to clinch a playoff spot this week. Wildcats moves to the number 9 seed overall as the best team on the outside looking in the wildcard chase for the time being, but remains just 1 game out at 5-6 overall. The Amazons knocked off Greek Thunderball 122.36 to 77.8. Amazons continues to chug along without 3-star running backs and this time in a winning effort over a flat Greek Thunderball. Amazons got 53% of her scoring from 3 players, with a game-high 33 from quarterback Matthew Stafford, 20.2 from wide receiver Jerome Simpson, and 12.5 from wide receiver Sidney Rice. The struggles continued at running back, however, as 4th and 5th stringers Jason Snelling and Carnell Williams combined for 1.75 points this week. Meanwhile, Greek had quarterback Ben Roethlisberger on a bye on the bench this week, and fill-in quarterback Tavares Jackson managed a pedestrian 10.62 in his place. Greek actually had 5 players in double digits this week and 7 above projections, but 9 players scored less than 5 points and 4 players scored no points, including the injured wide receiver Jeremy Maclin, who was in the lineup, the Pittsburgh defense in the lineup on a bye, and 2 individual defensive players who scored 0 points. Greek did continue his dominance at wide receiver, though, as Larry Fitzgerald and Calvin Johnson combined for 22 points this week. Greek, with the loss, now plays 3-8 overall, while Amazons improves to 4-7, 2 games out of the wild card with 3 games left to play. And in your biggest blowout of the week, AZ Chargers knocked off White Powerade 156.16 to 104.54. The week's biggest blowout gives AZ Chargers the league's top spot once again at the expense of the desperate for a win White Powerade. AZ Chargers had 8 players beat projections and 3 break 20 points this week, led by 25.25 from wide receiver Vincent Jackson and 23 from the maligned New England defense. AZ Chargers also had 18.25 from quarterback Phillip Rivers and 22.6 from tight end Rob Gronkowski. Powerade countered with just 4 players beating projections this week. Quarterback Michael Vick went to the bench with an injury, and fill-in quarterback Christian Ponder answered the call, posting a team-high 22.49 this week. Powerade also had mild success at running back with BenJarvis Green-Ellis and Michael Bush combining for 28.25. Unfortunately, success was not found with 2 wide receivers, Greg Jennings and Deion Branch, combining for 3.5 points for Powerade this week. In fact, Powerade actually had 11 players score 5 points or fewer this week. AZ Chargers, with the win, extends his division lead to 2 games and is now P1 in the league with an 8-3 record, while Powerade is now 5-6 on the season and a game out in the wild card chase. Looking ahead to Week 12, divisional play returns. Crucial matchups across the board. Championship Cheese will take on Lombardi's Ghost. If Cheese loses, Cheese cannot win that division. And Bear Jew will take on Big Ben's Revenge. The Cavs division will have Boners take on Wildcats and Shell take on Angry Arthritis. Wildcats needs a victory to stay alive in that wild card chase, to stay active, I should say. Won't be eliminated from it necessarily. But Boners and Shell, playing in opposite matchups this week, are each trying to stay atop the Cavs division. Aztecs division, Mojo Jojo has a chance to actually clinch the division with a win this week, taking on Navajos, who needs a win to stay alive in that wild card chase, and Powerade will take on Amazons. Both teams also looking at needing victories to stay alive in the wild card hunt. Toro division action will see Mustache Discount and AZ Chargers in your marquee matchup of the week. If AZ Chargers wins that matchup, they will win that division. And then Greek Thunderball will take on Viva Football in the other matchup. So we look forward to seeing you back with a crucial week of football ahead for everyone. Remember, Thanksgiving Day, there are 3 games set for Thanksgiving on Thursday, so you're going to want to make sure you have your lineup set early, as 6 teams will go into battle on Thursday this week. So we'll see you back next week with another recap, your Week 12 recap in the Tucson Tackle Dummies League.